Hello, everybody, and welcome to World Edition. I'm Nick Palavita. I will not be your host today. That'll be up to Mark Lee as soon as he gets his thing running. Then we'll be able to listen to him and also get the update of the news. In the meantime, of course, this is the place where we do discuss all the news and current events throughout the world. And with that, we do have somebody who is on the other side of the world who has joined us. I was wondering if he received an invitation. We'll bring in Rick Rosner. Rick, we actually have some time to ourselves because the rest of the crew hasn't arrived yet.
Okay.
It's a rare thing.
My brain hasn't arrived yet. I just woke up. So.
Oh, really?
Your
Okay. Well,
brain
you're in
hasn't
Los
arrived?
Angeles. Yeah, you're in Los Angeles, so you have an excuse. The rest of the Republican Party, like you, don't have an excuse. You know, they haven't woken up yet. You know.
He's
Oh,
not a Republican.
we also have Isaiah joining us from Lord knows where. You know. So I'm not even sure where Isaiah is right now. Is it good morning or good evening, Isaiah? Where are you at?
Oh, it's great morning. I'm in Asheville right now.
Oh,
Up in the
Asheville, North
mountains.
Carolina. Right. Okay. So he's close by us. And let's see if there's anything happening in the news, Mark. Do you
Yeah,
find
there's
any
stuff happening in the
new
news.
events?
The
'Cause
World
you have
Court
all the
has
events down. What's going
yeah,
on?
the World Court has ordered Israel to halt the Gaza famine, and Hamas says a ceasefire is needed. So that is something that is going on, and that is something that we are seeing in the news. And all along those lines, a bus carrying the Easter worshippers veered off a bridge and plunged nearly 200 feet, killing at least 45 people, and that was in South Africa. So that is something that is going on. There was a 8-year-old that survived that horrible tragedy and everything. And Gantz has welcomed obvious high court ruling to freeze funding to Harade's Yashavas. And definitely the Israel court has halted subsidies for ultra-Orthodox who don't serve in the army. So definitely looks like the Israeli Supreme Court has ordered the government to stop funding religious schools that defy enlistment. And that is a blow to Netanyahu. So that is something that we're seeing in the news. And Russia has shut down the UN watchdog tracking North Korea sanctions. So that is something going on. So the Russian veto ended the UN panel, which was monitoring North Korea sanctions. And the Russian network that paid European politicians has been busted. So that's what some people are saying, and all along those lines. So, we got all kinds of things going on with those fine folks in the Russian theater. And in Turkey, they're having elections. So Turkey's local election, and whoever wins Istanbul could dictate the future of that particular country. So Erdogan isn't on the ballot, but his presence is felt in that mayoral election. So it looks like there's a battle to figure out who's going to run Istanbul, and that could become a key part of Turkey's future. So definitely, it looks like Putin has got some F-16 threats that could start a war with NATO. That is what a Swedish military official warned. So he was warning that that could be taking place. And they're saying that the F-16s are sitting ducks for the Russian MiG-31 fighters. And Putin is warning of consequences over the fighting Falcons. And there is sexual violence in Haiti that apparently is severely underreported and largely unpunished. So that's just something that was going on in that very troubled country. So there's a cataclysmic situation in Haiti, which has left 1,500 dead in gang violence. So Haiti now needs up to 5,000 police to help tackle catastrophic gang violence, according to UN experts. So the UN is keeping very busy these days, and all along those lines. And China has joined a probe into a deadly Pakistan suicide attack on its nationals. So a march of terror. Pakistan grapples with deadly attacks on China's interests. So definitely that looks what's going on. And by the way, there will be in the Philippines, there will be a Filipino villager nailed to a cross for the 35th time on Good Friday, and he'll be doing that to pray for world peace and different other things. So he'll be taking this notion of what was said to have happened with Jesus and everything along those lines. So today is Good Friday, and apparently this particular villager has done this a number of times, and I guess it's his way of praying for world peace and all in that space. And with all these troubles in the world, who knows if we'll ever have world peace. And France's Macron embraces Brazil's Lolo. And definitely there are folks that are poking fun at that because Brazil and France have launched a $1.1 billion program to protect the Amazon rainforest. So they are showing unity on global issues despite differences on Ukraine. So apparently they don't agree on Ukraine, but they're showing some things that the folks are liking. And apparently there's some memes out there where they're kind of talking about their bromance and all along those lines. So definitely there's some folks that are picking on them in that sense. So definitely Syria is blaming Israel for the deadly attack in Aleppo. And it definitely looks like an Israeli airstrike in Syria killed more than 40 people, according to one war monitor. And let me get to some U.S. news, and then we'll see if there's folks that other folks want to talk about as well, and just some of the things that are going on. But, there's always stuff happening in the world. And pro-Palestinian protesters have interrupted Biden's glitzy New York fundraiser and all along those spaces. So protesters interrupted Biden, Obama, and Clinton at a $25 million New York fundraiser. And apparently Joe Biden needled Trump and raised $26 million at this particular fundraiser, even though there were folks that were protesting and all along those lines. So definitely looks like that something is going on. Just like cranes have arrived to start removing wreckage from that deadly Baltimore bridge wreck. And definitely that's something else that's going on. And of course, there's some folks talking about a gag order. So could a gag order be on deck in the Fulton Trump case? So definitely there is some First Amendment protest efforts to overturn the election. And definitely there might be some things even with a gag order, but we'll see if he gets a gag order or not. And, we talked about Brittany Griner way back when, but we forgot there's another U.S. Individual that's in Russian jail, and that is Evan Gershkovich, who's now spent a whole year jailed in Russia. So he spent a whole year jailed in Russia, and he is a Wall Street Journal top editor. And, the Wall Street Journal journalist and the top editor. Hoping it will be his last year behind the bars and everything, but definitely he's been there for a whole year. And I know a lot of his folks in the Wall Street Journal are trying to figure out a way to get him out and all in that space. And in Illinois, a family was attacked in Illinois stabbing spree, and they praised the son and dog for saving their life. So it looks like the dog jumped to the defense of the person that was about to be stabbed and all along those lines. So that's something that's going on in that space. And I hate to tell you this, Nick and everything, and anybody from North Carolina, but if you are, and actually I think one of our guests said that they were in Asheville, but if you got one of those Trails Carolina licenses, North Carolina has moved to revoke the licenses of Wilderness Camp where a certain individual died. So North Carolina DHHS is to revoke the Trails Carolina license, and Western North Carolina Outdoor Therapy Camp license to be revoked after that death that took place, and all along those lines. Matter of fact, one former Trails Carolina camper calls for change amid assault allegations and said I was not safe. That is what they said, but definitely that's what's going on in that space and all along those lines. And, we still got police investigations. As one individual said, he didn't trust police, but sought their help anyway. And 2 days later, he was dead. And so this is how definitely things are going on in that space. And sometimes people are wondering about police investigations and all along those lines. So definitely a lot of folks are wondering about that and how that's going to play out. And I'm going to get some more details on that in a minute. And Vice President Harris announced the OMB policy to advance governance, innovation, and risk management in federal agencies' use of artificial intelligence. So the White House has unveiled new AI regulations for federal agencies. So I guess they want to catch a little bit of a control of what's going on with AI. So definitely they are issuing new rulings on how government can use AI in that space. So definitely, and by the way, Chris Christie has rejected no labels. Definitely, it looks like no labels presidential efforts have suffered another setback because it looks like Chris Christie is not going to be wanting that bid and everything along those lines. So definitely we'll see what goes on in that space, just like we'll see with voting. And then I'll turn it over to other people, because there is a Texas woman that was sentenced to 5 years over a voting error that has now been acquitted. So the Texas mother who faced 5 years in prison has illegal voting conviction reversed. So there was some things going on around voter fraud, and it looks like they have reversed it, and all in that space. So definitely that's something going on in that kind of way. And this is one for my good friend over there. And like I said, I'll get to some of the other stories as well, but I got to ask Ivan and maybe even Rick, apparently there's a spike in what's going on with school dropouts and all along those lines. So I'm thinking Isaiah, that's the name I was looking for, would not be a school dropout when he was in school, but apparently they've exploded all over the place. So the rates of students skipping classes remains stubbornly high since COVID closures. The problem just got worse, and apparently they're saying that the schools have lost their sense of purpose, and parents are not fully aware of or concerned about their children's school attendance. So Isaiah, when you were in school, were you one of those people that was dropping out of school and ducking school and all along those lines, or were you one of those folks that was totally into school and were not going to be dropping out and were trying to get the best education? And what is your thoughts about folks skipping school on a regular basis? Because apparently this has become a post-COVID problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Personally, I always attended school just because I was curious and wanted to learn as much as I could. But I mean, I do see the reason why people are dropping out. It's because, like, colleges, they don't really teach you any personal life skills or practical skills to go into the workforce. For example, on negotiation, I read this book one time. It's called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And he was an FBI negotiator trying to get hostages out from situations internationally. And the way he taught negotiation wasn't the way, for example, that Harvard was teaching negotiation. When he went to go for a class of theirs to see how they did it, he saw that it wasn't really good. And actually mentioned this book to a friend that also attended University of Miami and business school. And the same way Harvard taught their ways of negotiating is how the UM taught their ways of negotiating. But Chris Voss, the FBI negotiator, taught it in a completely different way, where you have to have a lot of empathy and know a lot of human biases in order to win the deal, right? So I feel like a lot of universities, they're not really teaching practical ways to for your life. And also, for example, with finance, I taught myself a lot of stocks and how to invest, and that's something that I didn't really see in universities, how to apply that in life. I had to teach myself by myself, and then I saw that a lot of the books that I read of a lot of billionaires that were in the stock market, they said that they also had to teach themselves all these skills because they couldn't learn at university. So I feel that our education system is really lacking, both not only through universities but also through high school, middle school, and elementary, and we need a whole restructuring of that.
Yeah, speaking of that and everything, and I don't know if Rick
Okay,
wants
hold
to
on.
jump in and everything really quickly, but I did see that the Harvard applications, they have accepted 3.59% of the applicants to their class of 2028. So that is what is going on there. And apparently the Harvard applications drop as other elite schools see record highs. So definitely they are, Ivy League universities are announcing offers and rejections to their prestigious campuses. And definitely looks like at Harvard, they've accepted 1,937 to the class of 2028. So what's your thoughts about this? Because, you know, that's actually probably down from what
I can talk about this because my wife is in college admissions, or she has been. And when I was applying to college, 40 years ago, 20% of the people who applied to Harvard were admitted. People applied to fewer schools. It was harder to do it. Now with computer apps and the average kid when I was applying to school maybe applied to 4 schools. Now the average elite student applies to 16 schools, and which means that because like 68,000 people applied to Cornell last year, and maybe 4,000 got in. And so because the odds are so low, you're saying that one person in one applicant in 30 who applies to Harvard gets in, which makes elite students all crazy and their family all crazy, and everybody applies to a zillion schools among elite students hoping to kind of randomly get into one. And it's a mess, and it gets worse every year. Talking about dropping out, as I said, my wife worked at high schools. Her friends are teachers. A big problem is parents. When we were kids, the old guys here, parents sided with the school. If you get in trouble at school, then you're going to be in trouble at home. Now the parents more consistently side with their kids, and it's not great for the schools. If the kid's an a-hole, the parents are a-holes, and kids who are disorderly, irresponsible, there's less support at home for keeping them in line in a lot of families.
Yeah, definitely. I can hear that and everything. Just really quickly before we get to some other things, including some world things, I do want to get to this story that I mentioned about the restraint, because definitely police violence and things along those lines can definitely be an interesting story. So if I can just get a chance to read part of this story and then hear y'all's response to it. But apparently Jamaica Lorry, and I might be pronouncing his first name wrong, entered a dimly lit lobby of the city's police headquarters in Paterson, New Jersey. And apparently he was having a mental breakdown and needed help, barefoot and wearing only pajama pants and a sweatshirt in the pre-dawn hours of 5 years ago, January 15th, 2019, he pulled out a cell phone and began a social media broadcast of an anti-police rant. So why are y'all trying to kill me? Lowry asked several Paterson police officers on his Facebook Live video feed, if I'm dead in the next hour or two. They did it. As Lowry sounded off, police stood back and summoned an ambulance to take the then 27-year-old African-American man to the hospital. What happened in the ambulance remains a flashpoint in the African-American community's deteriorating relationship with the city's 400-plus member police department, an agency so troubled and distrusted that state officials last year took it over. So definitely, like I said, he passed away. And Lowry was among more than 330 Black men who died after police stopped them with tactics that aren't supposed to be deadly, like physical restraint and use of stun guns, according to the Associated Press. And African-American people of non-Hispanic descent accounted for about a third of the 1,036 deaths that the AP cataloged across the nation, despite representing just 12% of the population. So I was just wondering y'all's thoughts around some of these tactics that sometimes can go into being a little bit over the board. And I know even here in Durham, I think that might have been 6 or 7 years ago, there was a guy that committed what some people consider suicide by police by making a rant and rave, knowing that the police will respond in a certain kind of a way and everything. So you all know about George Floyd, Freddie Gray, and Eric Garner. But I just wanted y'all's take on whether police are doing enough to curtail some of these situations. Anybody?
Your name's talking that is muted.
Oh, I'm muted. That's probably a good thing. But anyway, Mark, the problem is police have a really tough job.
Yes.
If you think about it, what a horrible job it is. You have to deal with people all the time in various stages and conditions. And so the thing is, you have to also look from the police standpoint. If these people think being a policeman is such a great job, why don't they go do it? But some of them are mentally incapable, like the one you're describing, to hold a job, let alone hold a police job. But don't discount that is not an easy job.
No, it's not an easy job.
They're supposed to be they're supposed to be saints. They're supposed to be gods.
No, they can't be saints or gods, but
they're people.
Yeah,
my goal of the criminal justice system is to tell my clients stay away from it. In other words, do everything you can to stay away from and some of the lawyers joke, they call it the criminal injustice system.
No, it's definitely a criminal injustice system. But hey, Nick, just really quickly, because there was how much do police need to know about situations that they are getting into? There was a gentleman, and he was not an African-American gentleman. Actually, I believe he was European-American, and it was actually across the street several years back when I was living in Raleigh instead of living in Durham. And I do remember when I was with that particular lady that I was dating at that time, that the police responded to into a domestic violence situation, and they
Yeah, there you go.
they used a stun gun. Unfortunately, what they did not realize was that the person had certain heart conditions and certain other things, so he was actually gone from this earth because they hit him with the stun gun. And then, like I said, when I looked outside, 'cause we heard the police sirens and all along those lines, and when we looked outside, we saw their body being wrapped over in a blanket because he was no longer with us anymore. But I was just wondering your thoughts as to whether they need to have other people coming in that can address some of these situations, because sometimes the police are not prepared to deal with these situations, whether it's domestic violence or whether it's mental illness, which is what I described in the New Jersey case. But I just wondering.
The hands are up. We have Jatovy and Sasha, so we can
It's a
find
lot
out
of
what
the
happens.
times it's institutional. It's different police departments can have different institutional stances, and like if you get a bunch of bad cops together who egg each other on, that will lead to bad institutional stances. Jatovy, you say something before, because I'm getting tangled up in my idiocy.
Jatovy definitely has an opinion on this.
Well,
Jatovy,
there are a
give us your
number of
expertise.
issues that have caused the problem that has been around for a very, very long time. The over policing of particular neighborhoods, mostly minority neighborhoods. On top of that, the varying statistics around minorities being actually killed at a higher rate from police, and then those actual officers actually getting off in a grand jury for killing a minority more so than killing another individual. But yes, police have a tough job. The worst name for an actual program that people actually wanted and actually is a positive thing that everybody could agree with. For example, we try and have police do way too much. That's not what they should be doing. Police should not be going to every domestic disturbance case, which actually domestic disturbance is one of the most dangerous places for police to be in the first place. That's where most bad things happens for officers. So there should be other individuals and other actual nonprofit organizations to come in and help out in negotiations with domestic disturbance cases, dealing with mental illness, because you shouldn't have a police officer trying to figure out if a person is schizophrenic, if a person has ADHD, no, there should be actually a individual there who should be able to assess the situation and deal with that mental condition, rather than having a police not only having to deal with the drug dealer down the street in a big gun shootout to a very delicate case of balancing between a individual's mental instability. So therefore, there should be other individuals there to help out and work with that mental condition that those individuals go on. So there should be more resources for people to tap into when they call 911 and say that, hey, this is, my sister is having a very, she is not only schizophrenic, but she also has, well, we should send an actual unarmed individual to be able to talk to that individual, to be able to negotiate with that individual on a different way than an actual police officer can, because a police officer is focused on something else. So there are many, many, many things that we should do that would cut those things, dealing with the deaths, the death toll with that. And the funny thing is, as I stated, the thing with the worst name, but everybody can agree with everything on the inside of it. What I just said was the basis for defund the police. That is the worst title that you could ever use, but that's what defund the police was, that everybody could agree with. So if they could change the name and also add in extra resources that people really want and people can all agree on, that's what the focus is. And that could help policing. That could cut down on the over policing of neighborhoods. That could cut down on the shootings of unarmed minority citizens. That could cut down on suicide by cop, because what you described, Mark, was suicide by cop. And there are individuals that see no other way to improve their lives. So they're going to go out in a blaze of glory, but they should have help. They should have mental health and mental services there rather than a cop pointing a gun at them, because that's already going to create a trigger and an easy way for them to end their lives.
Yeah, so Sasha's hand, I'm going to definitely get to him, but just a slight pivot, but not a total pivot before I get to Sasha. What is our thoughts about the folks that want to intentionally, speaking of police and everything, want to intentionally put a chokehold on economies? Because this is a police issue as well, and I actually just recently got a letter, and I know Nick's going to love this and everything, because there are protest groups that literally want to put chokeholds on cities. As a matter of fact, there is a protest around Palestine, so you'll love this, Sasha, because they want to intentionally block the roads and put a chokehold on commerce, and they have definitely sent out a letter to do it here in Durham, I think to do it in Philadelphia, to do it in a number of other cities, because they think that this is a way to make their voice heard when it comes down to the Palestinian struggle and all along those lines. But I know a lot of people will be upset.
Before we talk about chokeholds of cities, we should talk about chokeholds. Police officers used to routinely put people in the sleeper hold. You throw an arm bar around, and it turned out that this particular hold kills black people at a higher rate than it killed white people. And so they don't use the chokehold anymore. Even like some old school cops were like, well, frickin', it doesn't kill. One famously idiotic police chief said, well, it doesn't harm normal people and we should still be able to use it. And well, but no, it's because he was calling white people normal and black people not. So it takes a while to change, the police's orientation. One more thing about the police is 20 years ago, the police across America got billions of dollars after 9/11 to militarize their police forces. They got a ton of funds were made available, and that tended to make cops like more aggressive when it turned everybody into a SWAT team, which is not always the best thing for community policing.
And that's part of the problem.
Also to tie into that, because of the over militarization of policing, that was also a response to more guns in our society. Because the more guns we have gotten into a point dealing with guns where it's become a small arms race within our society between not only neighbors but also the community service organizations and the neighbors that we're actually grabbing more guns to protect ourselves against. So guns is also an issue with over militarization, because it's not just due to the fact of the whole 9/11 thing and dealing with, this. But yeah, we're with policing. There should be money going to
along those same lines. Like I said, I think I mentioned a couple of days ago, might even mentioned yesterday, I ran into our current mayor, and he was on his way to meet in Memphis, because apparently he and the Memphis mayor are now good buddies, kind of having one of those bromances as well and everything. But part of their friendship is over gang violence, because ironically, the police chief currently of Memphis is our same police chief in the past from Durham. So they're going there to talk about gang violence and how to get some of our young people out of these gangs and all along those lines. So Sasha, you got any ideas how we can get people out of gangs? Because that is a problem, not just here in North Carolina, but in Canada and in California and in a number of other places. So you got any of these suggestions?
Mark, I raised my hand about 15 minutes ago.
I was trying to get to you, Sasha.
Learning about what was discussed at that time. Now everything has digressed to some other topics, and frankly, carry on. I don't need to.
Well, if you want to address what you wanted to address, go ahead. Like I said, I'm perfectly open to hearing what you want to bring up when we're bringing up the other topics as well. Like I said, we try to cover
I wanted
a lot
to
of things.
address one issue in Ontario. It's part of Canada where I live.
Mm-hmm.
The motto of the police force was to serve and protect. Mm-hmm. Now the question is, protect whom? First of all, they have to protect themselves, because a dead policeman is good for nothing to protect you. So only live policemen can protect you. So in order to protect you, the policeman has to be alive. In order to stay alive, he must protect himself against all kind of bandits, criminals, and idiots, and so on. So therefore, I don't know how it's applicable here. For example, when I was young and I was serving, it was mandatory service in Soviet Union. The motto was there: first shoot, then ask the questions. So if you are in a dangerous situation or situation that could be perceived to be dangerous, all you have to do is to shoot and preferably kill. So then you can, if you care, you can ask questions and so on, but it doesn't matter, because if it's dead, you don't ask that person any questions, and he's still alive. Okay, you can ask some questions, why not? So here, policeman, if he feels a danger to his life, he must shoot and then ask the questions. Therefore, this is the easiest way to protect himself, which would allow him then to protect others. So number one, policeman has to be alive. There is no use for dead policeman. Okay, that's it.
Well,
While we're talking about policing, we got to say that crime nationwide, according to FBI statistics, is at 30-year lows, half of what it was in the late 90s. And if you watch Fox News, you think we're being overrun by immigrants, and they bring crime. Immigrants have a lower crime rate, which makes sense. When you think about that, if you come to America, if you've taken great risks to come to America to work, support your family, you're not going to want to be doing crime. But anyway, crime at 30 years low.
It makes a lot of sense. Just hold on a second, Jacoby. Hold a second, Jacoby. First off, Sasha, the parts you brought up are things that were all related to the police conversation. So actually, they were all tied in together, everything that I was talking about, because it was all police related, including your answer and everything. And secondly, I would agree with you what you just said, because I do have a cousin that is a GBI officer, and he has said something similar to what you said, because he says that if you shoot to maim, then oftentimes you will find that the person is very much on adrenaline, and they will still come at you, and then you could be putting yourself in danger. Because I remember we had that conversation during the George Floyd situation and a number of other situations that have taken place in society, because he is still a member of the GBI, the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. And to your point, that is something he says as well, is that if you shoot to maim, then sometimes people will be high on adrenaline, and you could be putting yourself as well as the people near you in greater danger, and all along those lines. But
cops used to be taught, I assume they still are.
It's a bad strategy to shoot to maim. You have to shoot to kill, because with the main person, they will accuse you of using excessive force. There will be a trial, and there could be a sentence of policemen who shoot to maim. Now, if you shoot to kill, it's a different story. The person who is killed cannot bring lawsuit. He cannot accuse you of anything, and then you can say basically that he resisted arrest, or he was threatening you, or whatever. So I would suggest that if you have to have the force, then shoot to kill. Absolutely.
And that's exactly what I just said.
Cops used to be taught, and I assume they still are, to shoot center of mass and to empty their clip. So
Okay. We all understand that. Okay, when you shoot, yes, you're going to kill the person. However, the problem that you just stated, Sasha, is the reason why we are in the problem that we are today. For example, Philando Castile had a gun in his car, legally owned and in a carry state. He was shot and killed because the cop walked up and shot him because he saw a gun. The cop saw a gun on an innocent man sitting with his wife and child in the car. That is the problem. Eric Garner was choked out to death because he had a cigarette. George Floyd was choked to death because they thought he was so high that he was going to kill people. That is a problem. The man was innocent in every single case. So just to say, hey, cops should always, yes, we understand domestic violence right now is the worst case for a cop to go to because there is a higher chance that that cop may get injured. That is a fact. But right now, when you say shoot to kill, the higher percentage of people that are getting killed are African Americans that are unarmed, that are innocent, that haven't done anything. So you're saying to kill random black people. That is the situation that we're in right now.
I never said to kill random black people.
That's what's happening.
What is difference to what from what
There
I
is
said?
no
I
difference.
did not.
That's
I don't.
what's
I did
happening.
not make any distinctions between black or white.
I'm
people.
giving you facts, though. You're
Well,
saying
it's
I
too
don't make a
bad.
random distinction.
It's too
But
bad.
the fact of the matter is, Sasha, minority communities are over policed. That means there's a bigger presence of cops in black communities. That means there's a higher interaction between cops and African Americans than any other race. So that means that cops are going to kill black people more often than any other race in this connection that you're talking about. Oh, well, if you feel uncomfortable, shoot and kill. That doesn't work. That's the problem that we're in. That's the discussion of the whole. That's the only reason that we're here now is the fact that suicide by cop happens. Yes, it happens. But again, you also have the problem of over policing. You have the problem of cops killing unarmed black people. You have the cops. So there's an issue there. So you cannot say that, hey, we must go out there and just shoot if you feel uncomfortable. No. That is the reason why I pointed out that yes, it's a horrible name saying defund the police. No, that is the reason why everything on the inside of that whole defund the police idea of, hey, we've got to send out individuals. Like, for example, if you take an individual with autism, and that individual is having an episode, and that individual comes across a cop and just so happens to be black or just so happens to be anybody, you're saying that cop needs to shoot that kid with autism because, oh, well, he's acting funny and that cop doesn't, and the cop feels uncomfortable.
That happened. That's the Denver case.
That's happened. Yes.
And that they didn't shoot him, but they did shoot him full of ketamine and they OD'd him and he died because he was a skinny kid.
They should have sent out somebody to actually deal with it. There was actually a black dude that was dealing with an actual individual who had autism. He was laying on the ground, unarmed, laying on the ground, hands up and all, and the cops came and shot the black dude.
You see, I'll
That's what you're asking.
Oh no, listen, Shiravi, you have a point. I agree with most of what you said. But you see, remember, there is no equality between, and I don't care whether white or black people who are being detected and killed as a result or so on. The problem here is that police is extension of government. And in fact, it's armed extension of government. So when you threaten police or you appeared to be threatening police because you have a gun, so then it's essentially, although on an individual scale, it's insurrection against government. And as insurrectionist, you have a great risk of being actually killed. And it's happened from time to time.
Again,
now, people that you said the names of these people, well, I would agree that they just happened to be in the wrong place in the wrong time. And it's unfortunate.
They were there where they were supposed to be. They were fine. The cops came to them and did exactly what you stated.
Well, they could stay at home and play with skis.
So now you're saying that individuals again, I gave you the facts. The facts are minority communities are over policed. So now you're saying stay home, but the neighborhoods are actually have a high presence of police. So now you can't stay home because if you walk outside, you know what? Hey, you might get shot. Now you're saying they can't go get groceries or go anywhere because you know what? Hey, if a cop feels uncomfortable, shoot him. That's not what it's supposed to be. If you go to
buy groceries, you don't take your gun with you, okay?
I said unarmed black people. You said, hey, if you feel uncomfortable or if you feel there's a threat, Okay, South Park did an actual cartoon or did a whole series on, hey, it's coming right at me. And it was a whole joke about what you're stating, that, hey, anybody can use the excuse of my life is in threat. I'm going to kill this individual. That was the whole doctrine in Florida, the Castle Doctrine,
Right.
that people have utilized to actually that is actually
Stand
called
your ground.
death.
Stand
Yep.
stand your ground. Stand
Yep,
your ground.
stand your ground law, or the Castle Doctrine. I think it's called the Castle Doctrine in other places as well. But yeah, the stand your ground law has basically been used to kill a lot more minorities. There was a spike in violence towards minorities in those areas where the stand your ground law, like a kid who was running away, he was freaking running away. They chased him down in a truck and shot him in the back. And that was
Toby, just really quickly, because I kind of alluded to it earlier, and I'd love to hear everybody, including Sasha's thoughts. Because, like I said, I did get an email because I'm part of certain activist communities and along those lines. But what is our thoughts when people want to protest and when they want to do protests? Because this is another police matter. They are willing to, as I put it earlier, choke off part of the economy, because that is literally what they are putting out. I think it's supposed to be in the middle of April that and there's several cities. Durham is being recruited to be one of the cities now and everything. I know that there's some big cities like Philadelphia and New York and other places where they want to choke off. And I think y'all even had that happen in Canada with the trucker strike and everything, where they want to choke off the flow in order to make their point, and then it becomes a police matter as well. So what is our thoughts around this notion of going out there and making a statement in such a way that you are hurting commerce?
Well, European countries are more strike oriented. We're super capitalist in the US. And so people freak out more if like a protest shuts down business. But it seems like a legitimate way to express disapproval.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Isaiah, you got any thoughts on that? You are friends with some young people and everything along those lines. So any thoughts around people that want to protest in this way of going and targeting capital systems, whether it's commerce, whether it's malls, whether it's whatever? So any thoughts around that, Isaiah? You're on mute right now. There you go.
I mean, I don't know if it's the best way, but I would keep supporting, trying to do the best things you can in the local level, trying to change the society the best way you can through entrepreneurship, because I feel like these are really the only ways to change the world, is to make something that is viable, that can make capital return, because if not, then you're just gonna have subsidies, and that's not the best way to run whatever organization you have, even philanthropy or NGOs. The problem with them for nonprofit organizations is that they don't make profit. So at the end of the time, like, they're not as powerful as they can be if they can somehow make it by.
So Biden has to walk a fine line where Netanyahu does not want to do what Biden wants him to do. Netanyahu's political survival, and maybe even not going to prison, depends on him continuing to be at war. And Netanyahu actually wants to make Biden look bad so Trump has a better chance of getting reelected. And the U.S. has actually done an unprecedented thing, which is fail to veto a Security Council resolution in the UN telling Israel to do a ceasefire. So the U.S. is actually making policy changes, but the policy changes are, ineffective because, as I said, Netanyahu doesn't care about what Biden thinks.
That's very much true.
In terms of what you're talking about, Mark, as well as the protest and choking off economic avenues, that's every protest,
right,
from civil rights to women's rights. I mean, it blocks areas, it stops traffic, it stops flow. The U.S. auto workers just did this. They and what happened? I mean, the thing is, when you make it to the protest, or when the protest is happening, that means people aren't listening. So that's why people protest. And then if people aren't going to listen to the protest, that's when, the riots and everything else come out, because it just gets louder and louder because they keep trying to tell you, hey, there's a problem. There's a problem. You're not listening to me. There's a problem. So, yeah, I mean, the choking off of the economic avenues, that's part of protests. I mean, from civil rights to MLK marching for the labor rights, to even now last year with the U.S. auto workers. So what they're doing is the same thing as everybody else.
Speaking of that and everything, this is for everybody because I probably brought this up as well, and this is the other topic that I wanted to get to. And I know, Rick, you're going to love this one and everything. What is our thoughts about people wanting to regulate AI? Because that's something that Kamala is trying to do, and apparently they put out some initiatives that will be trying to regulate this very important part of our life, and even sometimes it even plays into protest.
Yeah, I mean, regulating AI is just part of using AI, and using AI doesn't mean that that we're going to have like robot cops, and at least in the near future. Well, maybe, but I mean, like AI can be something as simple as coordinating among various police agencies to make sure that a lunatic who's amassing a store of guns and who's going around saying stuff like he's going to kill everybody, to make sure that the various police agencies are all aware of this guy so they can do wellness checks on him before he shoots up a mall. There are a lot of basic uses for AI that aren't, like super scary Terminator type things. But the first step is for government to address AI. And if we don't address AI, we're going to fall behind the governments of the world that become adept at working with AI. China, India, the little Baltic countries like Estonia. Estonia is trying to make itself the most technologically advanced country in the world. You can get an e-citizenship of Estonia, where you can become a citizen, remotely. You can become a citizen. I'm confusing myself, but
no problem. Does anybody have any thoughts about what Kim asked as well? Because
I was just going to say about the AI thing is that yes, it has to be regulated now, because if you don't, it's going to be out of control at some point, and individuals are going to place back-end coding that can do particular things that you're not going to like. I mean, you already have autonomy. Airplanes are flown mainly automatically now. So you've got AI coming through airplanes. AI is coming. AI is here. For example, showed you guys the movies, the short films people are creating utilizing AI. That all dealt with part of the whole the protest from the SAG Actors Guild and writers and everything else. That's all part of this. This is coming. It's nonstop, and regulations are needed to basically not only protect individuals, but also placing coding so particular bad actors don't take advantage of the unbelievable things that AI can actually do even now, and compared to what they're going to be able to do next week, because it's moving rapidly. So we've got to get a handle on it, or else we're going to just lose control on it.
I think Trump in 2016 was the first AI president, because the job disruption caused by technology pissed off America. And really, in 2016, nobody was talking about it. Each party was blaming the other for policies that led to job losses. But really, it was technology that did it, and the pissed offness Trump rode into office. And we're going to have more and more job loss and disruption. And we will also have job creation. McKinsey, which is this kind of semi-evil financial analytics company, says that AI has the potential to double the world's GDP, to make everybody rich, to make all our wishes come true, but in weird, disturbing, disruptive ways. We have a ton of jobs in America now, but thanks to technology, a lot of these jobs are super crappy. Driving for Uber or DoorDash, it's barely a job. If you do the math, you subtract your costs, you're not even making minimum wage. The jobs like that wouldn't exist without, high-tech AI-ish systems to do scheduling and routing and hooking you up with your riders.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, because actually I got some DoorDash yesterday, and I have friends that drive Uber, and some of them make a decent living, but not anything that is going to be making them substantial money. So I would agree with you on that, even though they sometimes would get some very unusual rides, like I think one of them took somebody all the way from North Carolina to Florida or something along those lines, and then you get a nice little penny, but those are the rarity, not the norm and everything.
It's horse maneuver. Horse manure, Mark. Okay, because the thing is, AI revolution will only benefit the 1%. Rick just pointed it out. Oh yeah, I'll double the GDP for the 1%. And part of it is because of the patents laws, and that we allow them to monopolize certain areas like Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash. And what they do is they basically screw the people that are doing the work, which is the average worker that's out there. And then they clap their hands in San Francisco as they pocket huge amounts of money that goes into their pocket, because what they do, they did some programming. It's a complete fraud. It's a waste. Yeah, AI may double the GDP for the 1%. By the way, all the people listening, you're all screwed, because you aren't going to benefit from that unless you're like Sasha and you find NVIDIA stock and you trade in it. In other words, if you don't get involved in the market when this stuff goes up, you are so screwed, because it's all designed for them. It's real simple when it comes to wealthy people. All for me, none for thee. Just remember that.
But Toby, what's this you brought up? I want to know what Toby brought up. Toby brought up this picture.
Have you guys seen this trailer?
No, who is he? What does he want?
That's AI.
He's nobody.
That's AI.
Okay, so
He doesn't exist. This guy doesn't exist.
He doesn't exist. So they just made him up. He's a cartoon character. So what does that do for me? See, what I like.
What does that do
Sasha,
for you?
Sasha's
For
a
example,
bottom
say
line guy.
which is actually done. You can actually take and put a description. Hey, Biden doing something bad, and you have
that's true. That's true. You're going to be able to create a lot of
trailer
fakes out there. I
manipulate individuals who believe anything about Biden. Oh, Biden falls off this. Well, that's what people are creating now.
Oh, I think this year is going to be
and then the same thing with, and then so this is just today. So in 2 weeks, it looks even better. In a year, it looks even better, and you can go and make a complete movie with it. So the point being is that this takes out a lot of jobs dealing with acting, dealing with writing, so on and so forth, just by prompts that can be done in AI. That is just a very scratching of the surface, because then again, what Rick talked about being the facial recognition, that's one of the things that Kamala was talking about the AI, how you're able to opt out of the facial recognition at the airports. However, many people don't realize that you can. But again, using facial recognition technology, that is AI. But
why would I want to opt out of it in the airport? I actually used it in the airport. I like stuff like that, because then I got through the airport real quick, and basically it was RDU on an
it doesn't
international
take any time difference if you opt out.
Why would I want to do that? I come from Paris. It works. They there's your facial recognition, and I get through the airport.
Now
I am not scared like all the liberal lunatics.
It's not about being scared.
That the AI is going to take my image and do something nefarious with it.
It's not about being scared. It's just about being cognizant and being aware. Same thing with TikTok. Why are people fearing TikTok?
Because they're afraid of nothing. There's nothing to be afraid about.
Being cognizant and being aware that your information is now in a different place. Your face is now in a different place. And then what they can do with the facial recognition technology.
San Francisco wants to dominate the market space of knowledge. They hate Beijing because San Francisco wants all the money in San Francisco. That's the only reason. There's no reason. TikTok.
They-
You know,
the reason
it's a
the
joke.
issue
They haven't
with
come up with
technology in
one
China is
cogent
because the
argument, not
technology is being
one.
stolen without
What
any
TikTok has done
repercussions
wrong.
and how it's being utilized. That's
You're
what it is.
scared of China. Oh, the
It's
boogeyman
being
China.
stolen.
Boogeyman China. So send all the money to San Francisco.
It's being stolen. The funny thing, and that's all. That argument always tickles me because people are so afraid of the U.S. government, but then they say, "Okay, well, you're afraid of China, so you're not afraid of."
Go
You're
crawl in a
afraid of
hole.
the U.S. government utilizing your information in a particular way, but you're not afraid of China doing the same thing.
No, I'm not afraid of China doing. I honestly, I just don't care. And all I see.
Are you
the
afraid of the U.S.
TikTok-
government doing that?
I don't really give a rat's rear if they have information on me. I don't. It all depends on what they use it for. That's a different story.
Now
In
we're
terms of
at it.
collecting the information, collect all the information you want. There's
But
nothing
that's-
I could
They're
care
not
less.
just data mining; they're actually utilizing your information.
Oh yeah, data mining, another boogeyman. Data mining. I mean,
No,
come
Hey,
data
on.
mining is
speaking
just-
of boogeyman, and we've only got
Give me-
2 minutes to
give me
go.
One real example, just one, Jatovi,
No, hold on a
about
second.
how that hurt an American person. Just one.
How it
please.
hurt? How data mining?
How China's TikTok has destroyed America. Just give me one example.
How utilizing
Well,
technology?
Hey,
to
I'll open
actually
up the
get
panel. I mean,
information.
you don't have one. One example panel, how China's TikTok has destroyed America because China owns TikTok.
So I mean, we willingly trade privacy for all the great things that
Convenience.
brings it. Like my wife's phone listens to us all the time. Whatever we talk about pops up on her phone minutes later. I assume, when I look at porno, I assume that something somewhere knows what I'm looking at. But there are entities that know whatever we do. Does it matter? I don't know. It doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It's all fear mongering. In other words, the 90% or more that I listen to about, TikTok, we got to stop it. Then there's not one good example. Okay, it's all fear mongering. AI, it's going to take
Actually,
over.
there
Not one good
And
example.
the way AI uses that knowledge of us.
no reality.
AI
there
uses
are examples of utilizing social media and these entities that take that information and pushing and propagating information to particular individuals to manipulate what they're voting for or what they're doing. That is an actual real thing. And then it comes down to, hey, what entity are we comfortable allowing that type of power?
That's the
afraid
internet
of the US
itself. The
government
internet
having
lies
that
all the
power.
time, Jatovi.
But
I mean,
but Nick, this is the reality.
There's
That
right now
happens.
fake
It's
news
normal.
going every day on the internet. Every
Again,
day.
But that's what the deal is. Like if you buy something on Google, then Google says, well, if you bought that, you might like this other stuff.
You're right.
Usually
So what's
Google's
wrong with
wrong.
that?
that has been done.
But also it's that same dumb level of using AI. Oh, if you believe this dumb lie, then here are a bunch of dumb lies that people who believe that particular lie also tend to believe. So here you go. Here's an avalanche of bullshit to make you a little bit crazier. And
speaking of avalanche, because we got to wrap up and everything, so we got to go to Ukraine, Russia, and China. I will say just really quickly that sometimes it can be interesting watching how institutions also get played into this conversation as well. Because one of the things I was going to bring up that I didn't get to, and maybe we can talk about it on Monday, since that will be Easter Monday after Easter Sunday, is that there's this whole controversy around the role of religion even in politics, because we have certain people that are, even to Jatovi's point, trying to play themselves as being the morally correct one and everything. And I know that even the Catholic Church has gotten some pushback because apparently for the first time ever, the Pope is washing the feet of women. And there was some pushback on that and all along those lines. So he got some pushback because that hadn't happened in centuries. And there are some people that are like, this is going against
well, if
the
you're
tradition.
going to talk about religion, then you got to talk about the very godless Donald Trump selling a Bible for $60 plus $15 tax and handling.
That's the golden calf in the Bible.
That is the golden calf, like they talk about in the Bible. Like I said, we're getting ready to get off and put on the little video that gets us out of here and everything. And I know that there'll be a whole conversation around Ukraine, Russia, and China coming our way with Sasha and Jonathan Lockhart. And hopefully Ivan will be joining us as well, because Ivan always has those tremendous videos that show and all along those lines. But right now, let's get on out of here.